Hello everybody! So as you can see, I'm wearing my Dunder Mifflin hoodie because last week The Office celebrated its 15-year anniversary. So today I decided that I would talk about one of the most, if not the most, beloved character on the show. I'm of course talking about Nick Figueroa. I'm kidding, of course I'm actually talking about Michael Scott. He really is, like, the best character on the show. And his departure at the end of Season 7 is one of the many and main reasons that the last two seasons are, well... But I've already talked about why the last season is so terrible. Today, I'm going to talk about why Goodbye Michael is pure genius and the perfect send-off for the character of Michael Scott. Goodbye Michael. If you don't remember, this is the episode where Michael leaves to go to Colorado to marry Holly. Which right there is just the perfect ending to Michael Scott, because throughout the series, he has always said that his dream was to get married and start a family.
So, tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be married and have 100 kids so I can have 100 friends and no one can say no to being my friend.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And Holly is the perfect woman for him to marry because she's basically an exact female version of him. But anyway, I really like how in the episode they have Michael make everybody think that the next day is his last day instead of that day. And that's a cool extra layer to where he is saying his final goodbye to them, but they're not necessarily saying their final goodbye to him. And because of this, he lets the party planning committee make the party that they want instead of, giving them impossible tasks to make the perfect party in his mind, which he usually would do. However, there are two people who find out that it is indeed his last day, but we'll get to that later. Since it is indeed his last day, he wants to make sure he says goodbye to everybody. And early in the episode, we see a paper with a list of names on it, and this is before we as the viewer know that it's his last day. So we're not exactly sure what it is exactly. And we find out later in the episode that he's using the list to make sure he says goodbye to everybody, crossing off their list when he says goodbye to them. And he doesn't just say goodbye to them, but he gives most of them gifts. The first one is Phyllis.
Before I leave tomorrow, I would like to reveal a secret that I have kept for over 20 years. Secret about Phyllis.
And he gives her one of those chattering teeth things telling her to speak her mind more often. Then he gives Stanley a mini pool table. It has no balls. Saying to never lose the fun-loving part of him.
Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it.
Come on, Jim!
Whoa, what are you doing?
This is pretzel day.
And for Andy, the worst salesman, I repeat, the worst salesman, he gives the list of the biggest clients, which he promptly loses most of the accounts of almost immediately. For Kevin, he rips up a caricature of him, telling him to not be a caricature, which is then called back to later when Kevin is invited to the cake meeting and he goes, "I was omitted! I was omitted!" Did Michael not just talk to you about being a caricature? For Oscar, Michael gives a scarecrow that he made, which looks like it was made by a 5-year-old, which Oscar just accepts. Michael's gift for Kelly is just leaving her alone. His gift for Ryan is the neon St. Pauli's grill sign. For Aaron, Michael gives fatherly advice on whether to be with Andy or Gabe, or Kevin. And for Creed, Michael gives his boots. Sort of. And by that, I mean Michael throws out his boots and Creed takes it out of the garbage. Which then leads to a hilarious scene where Michael is tripling up saying goodbye to Meredith, Gabe, and Creed. Whether you're afraid of dying, or dying alone, or dying drunk in a ditch, don't be. And then in the scene, Michael asks for his boots back, which Creed of course replies with, "I like to help you out, boss, but it doesn't work that way, and you know it." Then for Daryl, he gives his unfinished book Somehow I Managed for Daryl to finish writing. And then of course Michael asks to use the baler, which Daryl says no to, and then of course Michael tries to anyway and is denied. So then he tries and fails multiple times to make a backwards basketball basket. Catch you on the flippity flip. And then his, "Really?" to the camera crew when he finally does make it. And then Dwight, who Michael gives a letter of recommendation to. And the scene where Dwight is reading the letter is just amazing. You really see how despite how mean Michael has acted towards Dwight throughout the series, he really does care about him. Like, this scene will almost make me cry every single time. And then afterwards, Michael and Dwight play paintball, which is his second gift to him. But speaking of scenes that make me cry, we finally made it to Jim and Pam. Jim and Pam don't get gifts, but they get the most emotional goodbyes out of everybody. They are the only two people who find out that it's actually Michael's last day. The goodbye between Jim and Michael will always make me cry every single time. I mean, the whole thing where they're saying goodbye by just saying what they're gonna say tomorrow at lunch, And then seeing Pam pull in right after Michael leaves is just the most heartbreaking thing ever. Now I just want to point out one of my favorite lines when Michael is on his way to the airport and says, "I don't actually understand deathbeds. Who would buy that?" Truly one of the greatest lines in TV history. Anyway, he's at the airport, he takes off his mic, and of course the first thing he says, very fittingly, is "That's what she said," even though we don't hear it, we just see his mouth moving. And then as he's walking away, you see Pam run in, and they have a little goodbye, but neither of them have their mics on, so you don't hear anything, but that somehow adds to the amazingness of the scene, and it makes you cry every single time. Man, Goodbye Michael is so good. There's even a part where Michael doubts leaving, but then calls Holly and is immediately reassured, which shows further the fact that Michael and Holly are perfect for each other. And I really wish that they somehow made this the finale, or like they skipped to A or M or the finale, because, like I said before, the show goes downhill from there. Of course, if they had done that, you wouldn't have gotten this.
Michael, I can't believe you came. That's what she said. Best prank ever.
Or maybe you would, but maybe it wouldn't have been as effective. Anyway, that is why Goodbye Michael is the perfect ending to Michael Scott. Anyway, that's what she said. I mean, that's a wrap.